Forgive. Forgive others, but also forgive ourselves. And it's so hard sometimes, but it's also so easy once you do it, amen? Because once you do it, man, it's just a life-changing experience. But how do we forgive? We trust in God. The Word says that we lean not into our own understandings. Amen? Because when we live in that sin, it hardens our heart. Brother Sean was talking about that this morning in the office there. We were sitting there and he was reading a book, something about kryptonite. What is that?
Killing kryptonite.
Killing kryptonite. Read it, yeah, I don't know. Never read it, never heard of it. But one of the verses was in Hebrews chapter 13, verse 3, I think it was, and it talks about our hearts begin to get hardened as we sin and as we live and abound in that sinful nature. And the only way for God to break through that is if we allow Him to soften our heart. Church, we have to allow God to come in and soften our heart, not just for those around us, but for ourselves. Church, I want you to understand this morning that it's okay when we mess up. If we fall on our knees and say, God, okay, I feel myself slipping, God, take me. It's going to happen. But interestingly enough, whenever you fight that, slowly but surely you realize that it gets easier and easier to not mess up. Amen? I can tell you from my own experience that I would mess up a lot, and I know that, and I'm not saying that it's okay to just do whatever and say that, but what I'm saying is that when we mess up, I found that the more that I prayed about it, the more that I thought about it, I knew what was going to happen. Right? It's like knowing the news comes on and says, hey, someone had a huge tractor and hit a bridge in the middle of downtown Nashville and there's a Preds game. Go around. Right? But you're like, oh, I'll chance it because they're probably going to be done by then. And I want to see. Right? How'd you do that? That's what, and our mind gets curious. But I found that when I begin to fall, and whenever I know that I'm struggling, that if I focus on what God is placing in my heart, and I know the things that I struggle with, and I focus on them, and I pray about them, and I give them to God, it becomes easier to not fall into those traps. It's easier not to fall into those mind games that we fall into. So this morning, church, I challenge each and every one of us to examine our life, examine the struggles, examine the things that we think that are going so wrong and the things that we've unforgiven, not forgiven ourselves of. Let's lay them down to God today and let's live that life of forgiveness. Let's live that life because there's so many things we can be angry and upset about. Amen? We talk about it all. I talk about it to the kids all the time. There's so many things that we have to be upset about. We can be upset about all sorts of situations. But if we just lay it down to God, let that peace that passes all understanding take over and take control in our life. It's amazing what God can do. Amen? If y'all would stand with me this morning. Someone come to the piano.